Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into something a little different this time.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a study guide from the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's all about the Gospel of John.
Interesting.
Yeah, specifically, it focuses on what they call the Book of Glory. It's basically John chapters 13 through 17.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar.
And they zero in on John 14.6, where,
Not sure, yeah.
Jesus says that whole I am the way, the truth, and the life thing.
Right, a statement that's caused a lot of discussion over the years.
Yeah, exactly. And, what I found really interesting in this guide is this story about a guy named Reuben.
Okay.
So Reuben's a parking attendant in Colombia. He works at the Seventh-day Adventist Church there.
Go ahead.
And one night, this woman parks her car, and she walks right up to him, and she's like, "Are you a Christian?"
Wow.
Straight up, like right out of the gate. She even mentioned hearing that Adventists,
Oh, really?
don't like to help people.
Oh, wow. That's
Wow.
interesting.
I know, right? It's kind of like, where did she hear that?
Yeah, I wonder where that idea came from.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, she was in a bind, and she needed to park her car overnight.
Okay.
She said she didn't have any safe parking at her apartment building.
Right.
So she asks Reuben if she can leave her car there at the church lot.
Oh?
And Reuben, being the super kind guy that he is, he's like, yeah, no problem.
Oh, it's
You
nice.
can even park here for free.
Oh, wow.
I mean, come on. That's really going above and beyond, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he could have easily charged her,
Totally.
but it sounds like he was more interested in helping her out than making a few bucks.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great example of how we can live out our faith even in simple everyday interactions.
Totally. And the woman was super touched by his generosity and everything. And she even asked if she could give him a hug.
Oh, wow, that's sweet.
I know, right? So she starts parking there every night.
Okay.
And get this, eventually she even asks Reuben for a Bible. Yeah, I mean, think about that.
Wow, that's incredible.
I know.
It seems like his kindness really opened a door for a deeper conversation about faith.
Totally. I mean, they started studying the Bible together.
Oh, wow, where?
Right there in the parking garage.
Oh, that's amazing. What a story.
Right. And then a month later,
Yeah.
she decided to be baptized.
Wow, that's awesome.
I know. And she even called her husband,
Oh,
who was stationed overseas,
okay.
and told him all about it. And you know what?
What?
He was so intrigued that he wants to study the Bible with Reuben, too.
Oh, wow, no way.
Yeah, when he gets back to Colombia.
So one act of kindness could potentially lead to 2 new members of the church.
It's crazy, right?
That's incredible. It really speaks to the power of, embodying your beliefs in your everyday life.
Exactly. And it makes me think about that famous line from John 14.6.
Oh, yeah.
Where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And, the study guide, it spends a lot of time unpacking this verse.
Yeah.
Especially the idea of Jesus being the truth.
It's a big concept.
It really is. It's more than just facts, right?
You got it. It's about living a life that reflects, God's will. And reflecting his character in everything you do, kind of like Reuben did.
Right. Like, what does it even mean for someone to be the truth? It's such a bold statement.
It is a bold statement, yeah. And the study guide, points out that in the Gospel of John, truth is always connected to Jesus, God the Father, and the Holy Spirit,
Okay.
And then you have falsehood.
Right.
Falsehood is associated with the devil and sin.
Right.
So there's this contrast, right?
Yeah.
Between light and darkness, between being in harmony with God and being separated from him.
It's like truth isn't just about, knowing facts.
Right.
It's about a way of being, a way of living. It's like it all connects back to the idea of Jesus being the light of the world.
That's a great point. Just like light dispels darkness,
Yeah.
Truth kind of dispels falsehood. And Jesus, being the truth, illuminates the path to God and helps us see things more clearly.
Okay, so speaking of seeing clearly, this study guide.
Yeah.
It mentions how this section of John, chapters 13 through 17, the Book of Glory, it's often called the farewell discourse.
That's right.
What does that even mean? Farewell discourse.
So it's essentially Jesus's last big speech to his disciples before he's arrested and crucified.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like a final message, right? Filled with instructions and comfort. And the study guide, it compares it to, other important farewells in the Bible, like Moses' speech in Deuteronomy or Jacob blessing his sons.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's those last words, right? They carry so much weight, especially when you know what's coming next.
Exactly. So, what are some of the key things that Jesus talks about in this farewell discourse?
Well, One of the most striking stories from this section is in John 13,
Okay.
where Jesus washes the disciples' feet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It might seem like a simple act,
Yeah.
but it was incredibly profound,
Right, especially back then.
especially in that cultural context.
Yeah, I mean, washing someone's feet wasn't exactly like a glamorous job, right?
Yeah, not at all.
People were wearing sandals or going barefoot, so, I mean, their feet got pretty dirty.
Right, exactly. And it was definitely considered a servant's job.
Totally.
And there was no servant present at this particular meal.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the disciples' shock when Jesus gets up and starts washing their feet.
Yeah, I bet they were like, what's going on here?
Right. I mean, what would you think?
Exactly. I mean, did they say anything?
Oh, yeah. Peter, always the outspoken one.
Right.
He was particularly shocked. He flat out refused at first.
Oh, wow.
He couldn't understand why Jesus, their teacher and leader, would do something so, seemingly menial. But Jesus makes it clear that this act, it's about much more than just clean feet.
Right. So it's a metaphor then.
Absolutely. It's about humility and service. It's about putting others before yourself,
Okay.
even in the smallest actions.
Right.
It's even interesting to note that the Adventist Church has this tradition called the Ordinance of Humility,
Oh, okay.
where they wash each other's feet before communion.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, it really makes that lesson come alive.
Right. It's not just something Jesus said, it's something he did and something they strive to live out.
Exactly.
That actually reminds me of something else in this section of John,
Yeah.
Jesus, he comforts his disciples with the promise that he'll return and take them to be with him.
Right.
He tells them not to be troubled, that his Father's house has many rooms, and he's going to prepare a place for them.
That's a powerful image.
It is, and the guide actually points out
Yeah.
that this Greek word that's used for troubled, it means like being shaken to the core, completely thrown into confusion.
Oh, wow.
So it really captures, that emotional turmoil the disciples must have been feeling, knowing, what was to come.
Right. So, their whole world is about to be turned upside down.
Exactly.
And Jesus is giving them this anchor.
Right.
This promise to hold on to.
Right. And the way he talks about his return, it's so certain.
Yeah.
It's so reassuring, the guide mentions, that the Greek verb for I will come is in the present tense, which emphasizes that, unwavering certainty of this promise.
Oh, that's fascinating. So it's not like if he goes, it's like when he goes, he will return,
Yeah, it's like it's definitely happening.
And the study guide suggests that, our hope for Jesus' return isn't just based on, fulfilled prophecies, but also on the character of the one who made the promise.
So it's about trusting in Jesus himself, not just in a set of predictions.
Exactly. It becomes much more personal.
Right. It does. Okay, so we've got this act of humility with the foot washing,
right,
and this promise of hope in Jesus' return.
Yeah.
And then right in the middle of it all, we have one of the most famous and maybe most debated statements in the Bible.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I am the way, the truth, and the life.
John 14.6.
John 14.6.
A statement that has sparked, countless interpretations and discussions over the centuries.
Right. And it all comes as a response to a question from Thomas, one of the disciples.
Yes, right.
What was his question?
So Thomas, he was a bit of a pragmatist, always wanting to understand things logically.
Okay.
So he asks, if we don't know where you're going, how can we know the way to get there?
Oh, that's a good question.
A very practical question.
Yeah.
But Jesus, instead of giving him, directions, he declares that he himself eyes the way.
Wow.
The way to God the Father.
So it's not about following rules, it's about following a person.
That's how the study guide interprets it, yeah.
That's interesting.
And they also remind us that John's gospel, it's all about highlighting this close connection between Jesus and God the Father.
Okay.
It even quotes John 1:18, which describes Jesus as the one who explained and interprets God to humanity.
So Jesus is more than just a messenger. He's like the embodiment of God's character and nature.
That's a great way to put it.
And that's where the idea of him being the truth comes in, right?
Exactly. It's about more than just, factual accuracy. It's about aligning ourselves with God's will.
Reflecting his character in our lives.
Like Reuben, right?
Like Reuben, exactly. Remember, he embodied truth, not just through his words, but through his actions, his kindness, his willingness to serve.
Okay, so we've talked about the way and the truth.
Right.
But Jesus also says he is the life.
Yes, he does.
I'm curious to see how the study guide unpacks that part.
Me too.
It seems like there's so much more to explore here. There is. And that's what makes these deep dives so fascinating.
Absolutely.
We're just scratching the surface of these profound ideas.
It really is just the beginning.
It is. Welcome back to our deep dive, into the Gospel of John.
Yeah,
Last time we were talking about Jesus' statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Right.
And we kind of left off on what it means for him to be the truth.
Yeah, and I came coming back to that idea that it's not just about knowing facts,
Right.
It's more about a way of being, a way of living that reflects God's character.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, how do you even do that?
Well, the study guide really emphasizes how in the Gospel of John, truth is presented as something much deeper than just factual accuracy.
Okay.
It's about, faithfulness, about aligning our thoughts and actions with God's will.
Okay.
It's a state of being.
And that ties back to the contrast between truth and darkness that we talked about before.
Exactly. Yeah.
If Jesus is the truth and falsehood is associated with the devil and sin,
Right.
then choosing to live truthfully means actively choosing to live in the light.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm also curious about that third part of the statement where Jesus says he's the life.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
What does that even mean? Like, is it about living a morally good life?
It's a great question.
Or is it something more?
It's probably a little bit both.
Okay.
Right. I mean, the study guide kind of touches on this by pointing out that Jesus' words are often loaded with multiple layers of meaning.
Right.
So on one level, yes, it is about living a life that reflects God's values,
Right.
a life of purpose and meaning.
Okay.
But it also goes deeper than that.
Deeper. Okay, tell me more.
Think back to what we were discussing about truth being more than just facts, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's a state of being, a reflection of God's character.
Right.
Well, Jesus being the life is the source of that life.
Okay.
The source of that connection with God.
So it's not just about living a good life.
It's about experiencing true life, a life connected to the divine.
So it's like being plugged into a power source.
That's a great analogy.
We can try to live morally good lives on our own.
Right.
But true life, true vitality comes from being connected to Jesus.
Exactly. And this idea of Jesus as the source of life is also linked to his role as the creator.
Oh, right.
The one through whom all things were made.
In John 1:1-4, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, that all things were made through him.
That's right. And the study guide emphasizes how the Greek word that's used there for word, it's logos.
Logos, yeah.
Which has all these rich philosophical implications.
To be honest, I've never really understood what logos means.
Well, it's a tricky word to translate for sure.
Yeah.
Because it encompasses so much, It's often translated as word.
Okay.
But it also means reason, logic, order.
Okay.
Even the creative principle of the universe.
Wow.
It's the underlying rationality and structure of all things.
So is the study guide saying that Jesus is all of that? Like he's the embodiment of reason and order and creation?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's saying.
And it's through understanding Jesus as the logos that we can grasp the depth of his statement, I am the life.
Exactly.
He's not just talking about like biological life, right?
Right.
He's talking about the very essence of life, the source of all creation and existence.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack.
It is.
But it's starting to make sense. If Jesus is the logos, the source of creation, then he's also the source of life itself. It's like creation and life are inseparable from him.
Precisely. And that brings us back to the idea that truth isn't just an abstract concept.
Right.
It's a person.
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
Okay.
He is the truth, the life, and the way. Because he's the logos.
Wow.
The very foundation of all that.
Like everything points back to him.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like he's the key to understanding the whole universe.
And what's interesting is that even people who might not subscribe to the whole theological framework can still find resonance in these ideas.
What do you mean?
Well, the human heart has this innate longing for meaning, right?
Yeah.
For purpose, for something that transcends the material world.
Right.
And that's what this idea of Jesus as the life taps into. It offers a connection to something greater than ourselves.
Okay.
A source of meaning and purpose beyond our limited human understanding.
So even if you don't take the Bible literally, there's still something profoundly moving about this idea of connecting with a source of life that's bigger than ourselves.
I think so, yeah.
This whole conversation has me thinking about those farewell discourse speeches. Like it seems like Jesus was really trying to prepare his disciples for what was to come.
Yeah.
Not just practically, but spiritually.
Right.
He knew they were going to need something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Something to give them strength and hope.
And it's interesting how the study guide highlights the importance of Scripture in all of this.
Okay.
It points out that throughout the Gospel of John, and really the whole Bible, Scripture is used to support Jesus' claims and reveal his true identity.
Yeah, like he's always saying, don't just take my word for it, look what the Scriptures say.
Exactly. He's not asking for blind faith. He's pointing to a larger framework of understanding, a tapestry of prophecies and teachings that all converge on him.
I like that, tapestry of prophecies.
Yeah.
The study guide even gives examples like John 5.3840, where Jesus tells people that if they believe Moses, they should believe him too, because Moses wrote about him.
That's right.
And there's Luke 24.27, where after his resurrection, Jesus appears to 2 disciples and explains the scriptures to them, showing how everything pointed to him.
Like a trail of breadcrumbs leading back to him.
A story unfolding across centuries, with him at the center of it all.
And the study guide makes this really interesting point about the Bible not being a science textbook. Like it's not going to teach you how to build a rocket or perform surgery.
Right.
But it offers something even more profound.
Like it gives us a context for meaning in the universe, right?
That's it.
It helps us understand why we're here, what our purpose is, what happens after we die.
Yeah, all those big questions that science can't really answer.
Right.
Science can tell us about the how.
Yeah.
But the Bible speaks to the why.
It reveals truths about the human condition.
Exactly.
About our relationship with God.
Yes.
And about the ultimate meaning of life.
That's right.
It's like the Bible provides the map, the compass, and the guidebook for navigating those big questions.
I like that.
The ones that really matter.
That's a good analogy.
And it's through exploring these questions, wrestling with these ideas, that we can begin to grasp the depth of what Jesus meant when he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
It's definitely a statement that invites us into a lifelong journey of, discovery and transformation.
Speaking of transformation, remember Reuben, the parking attendant?
Oh, yeah.
His story is a perfect example of how living out your faith can impact not just your own life, but the lives of others in profound ways.
It's true. Yeah.
It's a great reminder that we can all be ambassadors for our faith,
Yeah.
No matter where we are or what we do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can open up the biggest opportunities for connection and growth.
I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
It's really amazing how Reuben's story keeps coming back to those core ideas from John 14.6.
It does, yeah.
I am the way, the truth, and the life. It's like his actions were a living example of what it means to walk that path,
To really put your faith into action.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't just quote scripture. He lived it out in a way that touched the lives of others.
And it makes me think about the context of this whole statement. We were talking about the farewell discourse in John chapters 13 to 17, where Jesus is, giving his final instructions to his disciples before his arrest and crucifixion.
Those final words are so powerful when you think about it.
Yeah.
Knowing what was about to happen.
It's like he was giving them a roadmap for how to navigate the future.
A very uncertain future.
Right in the middle of all this, he tells them not to be troubled.
Right.
That his Father's house has many rooms and that he's going to prepare a place for them.
Such a beautiful promise of hope.
It is.
A reassurance that even though he's leaving them physically, he's not abandoning them.
And the study guide really emphasizes that this promise, it's not just for the disciples, it's for everyone who believes in him.
It's a universal message of hope and comfort.
It really is.
And a reminder that, we're not alone in this journey. That there's a future reunion waiting for us with the one who loves us beyond measure.
It makes me think about that Greek word for troubled.
Oh, yeah.
That we discussed earlier.
Being shaken to the core.
Yeah, completely thrown into confusion.
It really captures the emotional turmoil.
Right. The disciples must have been feeling, knowing what was coming next.
They were about to face the unthinkable.
Yeah, the loss of their teacher, their friend.
Yeah.
The one they believed was the Messiah.
And in the midst of their fear and uncertainty, Jesus offers this incredible promise of hope.
Yeah.
He tells them he's going to prepare a place for them, that he's coming back for them.
And he doesn't just say, I will come back.
Right.
He says, I am coming.
It's like it's already happening, even though it's in the future.
Yeah, a powerful statement of certainty.
An anchor for their faith in the midst of the storm.
Makes you wonder how that promise resonated with the disciples, you know?
Yeah, I mean, with those who heard these words firsthand.
Did it comfort them? Did it give them strength to face what was ahead?
I imagine it must have been both comforting and challenging at the same time.
Yeah.
Comforting because it offered hope in the face of despair.
Right?
Challenging because it demanded trust in the face of the unknown.
It's like Jesus was inviting them and all of us to step out in faith, to trust in his promises, even when we can't fully comprehend them.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
It does.
Into this fascinating study guide from the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
It's been quite a journey.
We explored some really profound ideas.
Yeah, we did.
Unpacked some challenging concepts.
Hopefully.
And I think we, gained a deeper understanding of what it means to follow Jesus.
That was the goal.
The way, the truth, and the life.
And even though we've reached the end of this particular study guide, the conversation doesn't have to end here.
I think this is just the beginning, really.
That's a great way to look at it.
The study guide itself, it encourages us to delve deeper.
Yeah.
Explore the full Gospel of John, to keep wrestling with these questions.
Yeah, keep searching.
And to allow the truth to shape our lives.
As we wrap up, I keep thinking back to Ruben's story.
Yeah, me too.
The parking attendant.
Such a simple story.
Yeah.
But it just speaks volumes about the power of living out your faith.
Putting those big ideas into practice.
Yeah, in our everyday lives.
It's a beautiful reminder that we don't need grand pronouncements or theological degrees to make a difference.
Right.
Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness, the most unexpected encounters, can open up the biggest opportunities for, connection, growth, transformation.
It's about, embodying those core values of humility, compassion, service.
The things Jesus modeled for us.
Being the light in a world that often feels shrouded in darkness.
Yeah, and it's about remembering that truth isn't just a concept. It's a person.
It's Jesus.
And he invites us to follow him, to walk the path of truth, to experience the fullness of life that he offers.
So, to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, to keep asking questions.
Keep searching.
And to never stop seeking truth.
Until next time.